Hey, how you doing? This is John, and welcome to John's Long Box. Today we're doing Postentious with my co-host for Postentious, Fabrizio Aiello. How you doing?
That's pretty good. How's it going?
Pretty good. Oh, put your links in the private chat so I can put them in the public chat.
Yep.
I forget if you're a moderator or not, but so Fabrizio is the creator of a wonderful comic that I just love, Horace H. Hoover. So I'll put that link to this. You could go to Fabrizio's site and pick up issues 1, 2, and 3. And he's hard at work at issue 4 now.
Yeah, very much
How's
so.
that?
Finishing
Did I
up
sell you
soon.
stuff pretty good? I wish I could sell
Yeah.
my stuff as well as I could sell other people's stuff. I feel funny pushing my stuff. But since
Ye-
I brought it up, my comic, Heroic Tales 2, is on Kickstarter for 18 more days. And then when it's done on Kickstarter. It's still available on Fund My Comic if you so choose. And, you know, where's my smoking? Yeah, you're right. We should wear ascots. I was thinking about that. You know, we should wear ascots and dress up next time. A monocle.
I don't own an ascot. Is there like an ascot store, or is it you just buy an ascot where you buy jackets?
Yeah, where can you get? Does any put it in the chat, ladies and gentlemen? A good ascot dispensary, like a nice
Purveyor.
haberdashery. You know, like how do you fold the handkerchief? It's funny when I, how old was I when I did my communion? Grew up Roman Catholic. I think the communion is like fifth grade, sixth grade. No, confirmation,
Like
sixth grade.
second. Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, sixth grade. So so sixth grade, you're not really a kid, but you're not really, you know, you're in that weird, awkward state, adolescent stage. So I remember I'm getting money, like big Italian family. So it's like the mafia. They're all handing me envelopes full of cash. Hey, Johnny made his confirmation. Goomba, yeah. And I just remember my grandfather, God bless his soul. He's through the depression. He gives me $5. You know what I mean? Like, and you can't say nothing. Hey, pop, hey, and he claps his hands over it, like, don't tell anybody. He gives me $5, and he goes, "Go buy yourself a nice suit." So I told my father that, and he goes, "Pops is still the same. Go buy yourself a nice suit."
A nice
And
suit.
in his generation, you had to have a nice suit. And you know what? I still to this day do not have a nice suit. The picture that I took for this is my grandfather's suit from like literally like 1940.
No
I refuse to
kidding.
throw it away.
Yeah, it's funny. I mean, everybody wore suits all the time. It didn't make a
Right.
difference if it was. It didn't make a difference what time of day it was. And now, whenever I see a lot of people, I have to admit they look like children a lot of times in my head, like shorts and flip flops and this and that. And I'm like, there's this like a split second where like, yeah, we kind of dress like 6-year-old children
Right. Yeah.
most of the time.
I had a barbecue. I always wanted to. I'm speaking of children. I'm sitting there in front of toys and comic books and talking about, but like I I know it's funny, but I always wanted to have a keg party at my house, but I never did because my dad would just crush me. You know. So when I got this house, I just told my wife, "We're having a keg party this summer." And my wife is just a dire introvert, so she was freaking out. I shouldn't have told her. I should have just sprung it on her a week. Made it. Why are people calling? Why are you buying paper plates? What's going? But she was freaking out, and it turned out to be like the perfect weather. So everybody stayed in the backyard. But that's one of the things I was thinking about. Like I put on pants and a nice shirt, but not a suit. But everybody else was in like flip flops, and I'm like, like how much nicer would this been if everybody had like suits and ties and like
Yeah.
martini glasses.
Yeah, I see pictures of old like New York, and sometimes there's video of like really early New York, and everybody's wearing suits and dressed up, and I don't know. I bet they're using big words and they're talking about philosophy, surely, right?
Yeah, indubitably. They all just indubitably. Whatever you say. Would you like a meatball? Indubitably. It. I mean, I know I'm older than you, but I know you're into punk and everything. Like in the '90s, nobody remembers this, but there was like a big band revival. Do you remember
Yeah.
like the Brian Setzer Orchestra? Like they did this big, and I loved it. I grew up on big band. I could tell you my story about how I had like a love hate relationship with big band, and then one day I just accepted it. So like I at work I have a Bluetooth spook and it's set on shuffle. So like all my Pandora stations just shuffle up and it'll be like Motorhead, Fear, you know, uh, Glenn Miller, Leon Redbone, and everybody's like, "What the hell?" But whatever. So it's just funny. But anyway, in the '90s, there was a big band revival, and there was bands like the Squirrel Nut Zippers, the
Yep.
Cherry Papa Daddies, Brian Setzer Organ, and you'd go to these shows, and people dressed up with suits and ties, and they would do an old time, and I freaking loved. But as fast as it came, it ended, and then there was a little like aftertaste, like a little trailer of it. Do you remember? They called it Cocktail or Lounge, and it was like you listen to like I'm trying to think of the bands like Combustible Edison. They won Sub Pop Records and Pink Martini. There was bands like that, and it was like lounge music, and it was like 19-year-olds, really, really well dressed, ascots and long stem, and like you go to a club and act like an adult. It was like kind of refreshing because for years I'm going to clubs, everybody's slam dancing, everybody's got mohawks, everybody's like, how disgusting and dirty could we possibly be? And then now you go into a club and it's only like 5 years later, and you see the same people like, oh, I like your ascot. How did you fold that? I know there's a name for having a napkin in you, or whatever it's called.
Yeah.
What are they? I don't even know the name of a handkerchief. That's another thing. My grandfather always used to say, "Where's your handkerchief?" Gentleman always has a handkerchief. I'm like, you keep a snot rag in your pocket? He's like, you don't use it.
Yeah, I do remember the big band era, and I think it got too big too quick. And it was on commercials, and
Right.
it blew up so fast that it was kind of uncool. It was cool and then very uncool because it got too big, and then
Right.
people just pulled back from it. But I love that era. It was funny because that was when I was really introduced to like Louis Prima.
Yeah.
I didn't understand. I didn't know that David Lee Roth, redid a Louis Prima song. I never made that connection.
Yeah. I told my Louis Prima song is my father had records, vinyl in the house. I grew up in the '70s, and I remember right before I moved to Albuquerque. So this is like 1992. I'm like gathering all my stuff, and at this point, nobody in my family wanted records anymore. Everybody was CDs, and my parents could care less. They didn't even have a turntable anymore. So I'm like, what records do I want to take with me? And I'm going through the record collection, and there's this album, and there's this guy's big goofy face, and it's like a green record with the face, and it's like all yellow and orange circle around him. I'm like, freaking record. It's been in this since the '60s, since I was born. This stupid record. And then I put it back, and I decided against taking vinyl. I brought some CDs with me to Albuquerque because I'm going to buy a turntable across the country. You know what I mean? So now I'm in Albuquerque. It's like 2 years later. It's like '95, and I'm in a barbecue. And it's beautiful weather out and stuff, and there's just great big band music, just hopping, and everybody's bopping. Like this was like maybe that right before or during that big band revival. And I told the guy, I'm like, who is this? He goes, oh, this is Louis Prima. And I'm like, oh, wow, I got to get some of this. So I go to the record store. I asked the guy for Louis Prima. He hands me the record that I made fun of. And right then and there, I was just like, the circle is now complete. And the song was Hey Girl. I still remember that. That was, Hey Girl. So anybody listening to this, go on YouTube, Louis Prima, Hey Girl. It's awesome. It's awesome.
Yeah, all of
My
his
favorite
stuff is
Louis Prima.
really fun. It'll put you in a good mood. I don't care
Right,
what
right.
just happened.
Right. He was from New Orleans, and he was an Italian. So he had that New Orleans jazz, and he was kind of like and keep in mind, back in the 30s and 40s, being an Italian was, you might as well have been black. You know what I mean? Like the Italians were outcasts. You were either the mob or a dirty nothing. So he made his way on town, but he was like fun. Like he would bop it around. So if anybody's seen the Jungle Book, he's the voice of Louis, the chimpanzee that wants fire, and his band sings. And the animation of everybody jumping, they literally recorded and rotoscoped over his band performing. That's
cool.
like how animated they were. And then Keely Smith was his wife, and
Yeah.
she would stand there and like nod at him disapprovingly. That was the shtick. But it was fun. It was fun. So I've come. No, $5 couldn't buy me a suit, but my grandfather did the math. If 40 people all gave me $5, which is a lot of money to him, I had enough money to buy a suit. Like people will give me $60, $70. This was 1985 money. It was a lot of money, you know. And I swear I probably spent it all on comic books. You know, I bet. Go to a funeral suit. I don't have a suit. Yeah, I have a suit, but I bought it when I became a school teacher. But I was literally 350 pounds back then, so this suit doesn't fit me. So right now I don't have any suits that fit me. It's just been a problem my whole life. I just don't have suits that fit. I would love to, if I buy a suit again, I want to get it made for me. I want to go to a tailor and, you know, get it custom made, you know, spend the money and get a real suit that actually fits, you know, because my brother was a bigwig in the union. I was always going to these union functions, and I'm wearing this like David Byrne jacket from when I was 350 pounds. You know, guys used to go, "Have you asked yourself whatever happened to your beautiful wife?"
I have a couple of suits. I need them for work sometimes, but it's been a while. Yeah, you know, we should all start wearing suits. Next time, I'm gonna pull mine out and see if I can find an ascot. That's my goal for next Postentious.
Yeah, I mean, a bathrobe would be fine. A nice bathrobe, like you have their bathrobe. You know, I'm not fancy myself, but there's kind of an orderly virtue to dressing. Yes, my wife says she misses going to church. She goes, and like people are in t-shirts and Crocs and stuff. She remembers when she was a little girl. She says, like, you wore your Sunday best. She misses that. So I tell her, you dress. You know, maybe you'll shame people. Olafembi, how you doing, guys? Ben Sabar, how you doing? Doobie Doo, I want to be like you. Sadly, none of those guys are still among us. Yep. A Mark Miller style bathrobe. Does he wear bathrobes?
I don't know.
Does he? I mean, if you're rich, I would. You know, there's a reason why you have to wear pajamas all the time. They're freaking comfortable. All right, so we filibustered enough. So, for those of you who don't know, what postentious is, when you have gone beyond pretentious. You have blown past pretentious. You hit the gas at pretentious. You are now entering postentious. You know, and what we do is we take lesser known comics and talk about them. So we're not going to talk about the Watchmen or Spider-Man. The last one we talked about Sebastian O, which is about as pretentious as you could possibly get. And today we're going to talk about Concrete. So Concrete is not that pretentious. It's actually a pretty straightforward comic, but this, I don't know, would you say this isn't too well known, is it?
I mean, I think it's somewhere in the middle, because I knew about it. I read it back in the day, but you know, it's kind of like, for me, you're walking through a comic book shop and you're like, I need something different. Oh, this looks different. The art's black and white, but so I don't know if the average person would know Concrete or not. It's Dark Horse. That's pretty popular.
Yeah, so let us know in the chat if you familiar with this comic, if you read this comic. I freaking love this comic. I haven't, I didn't miss an issue, and I when I cataloged my comic, I'm up to F. I think F or G. So and I found that I was missing one Concrete comic, and I bought it. And I haven't read it yet because I'm like, there's never going to be another Concrete like that. You know, I'm trying to remember what novel. I read a book where the guy was such a Charles Dickens fan that he kept a copy of Hard Times in his pocket. So, like, he was like an assassin or something like that. He goes, when I know that I'm about to die, I'll read this book. You know, like, I love Charles Dickens so much. I still want to look forward to. So I do that with it. I have one Concrete comic that I haven't read yet. And Paul Chadwick said he would come on my channel, and then he goes, give me 6 months. I was like, all right, it's been a year. So my fault. I haven't messaged him back. I kind of forgot about it. So anyway, awesome. I talk a lot. What do you want to, you talk for a bit?
Just my introduction. So like I said, it was funny. I was thinking, when did I read Concrete? And I'm like, in my head, there's no nuance when it comes to time for me. Everything happened either 10 or 20 years ago. It doesn't make a difference. And I'm like, it must have been 20 years since I've read this book. And I never got the floppies because I was like 12 or 11 or something. But I got like the digest versions, like these.
Oh wow, that's a cool looking cover.
Yeah, and I looked at the date, and this is exactly 20 years ago.
Well, this comic came out in 1987, and I don't think it's his first appearance. I think he was in Dark Horse Presents, like a couple of short stories. So getting the digest is probably a smarter idea. Probably has all of his appearances.
Yeah, so this was well after this came out, but it was interesting reading this first issue because well, we can get into it, but it wasn't quite what I was expecting. Kind of like you said, straightforward. It's not very artsy. It's not overly pretentious.
Right. It's this character is Paul Chadwick. Like his personality is Paul Chad. Paul Chadwick is a speechwriter. He writes speeches. He's a pretty left wing guy, but he's not a crazy person. He's like back in the '80s. I was probably considered a left wing guy. Before everything shifted, and he writes speeches for senators and congressmen, and then he started doing comics. So I forget his secret identity, but Concrete is a speechwriter who becomes Concrete, and it's. I think Paul Chadwick, if I remember correctly, I think he had some health issues growing up. So this is kind of like wish fulfillment. Like, what if I had an indestructible body? I would do all of these cool things, and we'll open it up in a second. But this is, he's like the Thing, and immediately when I saw this cover, I was like, oh, he's like the Thing, and I don't remember if I was like, how dare they? Or cool, I like the Thing. Ben Grimm is one of my favorite, but I was always obsessed with golems, and I always thought they were like one of my favorite monsters. So like, I wonder if this, and then it was like nothing like a monster book. Oh my god, it couldn't be more far from a monster book. So anything you want to say before I open it up? Here's the title, A Stone Among Stones.
It's a great cover. The eyes on the cover are really like telling.
Right, and I wonder if that's like Ben Grimm's always like, I'm blue-eyed, I'm the ever-loving blue-eyed Thing, and his eyes are the only thing that didn't transform. I wonder if that was like part of Paul Chadwick's decision to keep Concrete, because his eyes are a big part of the story, although they are different. They're not his eyes. They're the being of Concrete's eyes. Alterna has a character very similar to Concrete, what, the Granite Man in King Cryptid. I don't know who, or Log, which one?
Yeah,
Going from abstract to concrete, I can't, and I'm sure you're going to say it now. You're going to be like, duh, but I don't know. But anyway, let's open. Oh, so it's Dark Horse Comics. Are you familiar with Dark Horse?
Who, me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, I love Dark Horse Comics. At one point, they were like the go-to besides Marvel and DC.
Yeah, actually, Dark Horse got me sort of back into reading comics.
Yeah, they had a really cool slate, and then at one point they did a like a superhero universe. Like they called it the Arcadia. It was like Ghost, X, another one, and it didn't last too long, but it was really good, really good. Dark Horse. Now they're the home for I think Mark Miller's stuff. Millerverse is on Dark Horse, and anything Hellboy. So there you go. To me, it's like Dark Horse first and Eclipse were like the never miss an issue comics. At this point, Komiko was already gone. Yes, Granite. Yeah, he was in there. It came out on a Wednesday. Of course, my voice is starting to go now. Yeah, it came out on Wednesday. Yeah, he was stoned. Okay, I remember.
So there's Concrete, Granite, Travertine. Then there's just different stones. It was a bad joke. Travertine.
Travertine's
marble.
Oh, so here we, as you can see, it's black and white, and we got Concrete sitting over here, and these are the secondary characters. So Paul Chadwick does the story, he does the art, and copyright 1980. It was drawn in '86, released in 1987. Jeez, 1987, the year. No, it's not the year I graduated. That was the year I graduated junior high school, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm like 11.
You're 11?
I'm 11, so I'm still, I haven't seen a comic book shop at this point. It's still the newsstand.
Yeah, there was still newsstands at this point. You
Yeah.
could still get comics in newsstands. I obviously at this point, this was direct market only. Dark Horse never went to, as far as I know, they never went to a newsstand. So this is like, it could be, nudity. It could be cursed and stuff like that. But Paul Chadwick, I think there was some tasteful nudity later on, but nothing objective. And this was the comic that I gave to my friends who weren't into comics because they're all like, it's all superheroes and stuff. I was like, read Concrete. And do you remember the issue when he started to grow horns? I wonder. No. It's probably, at one point he started to grow horns, and he looked kind of like Hellboy, and he would cut them off, and he would get a grinder, and he would grind them down, and he started to starve himself, thinking, okay, like, do I have a tumor? Because he doesn't know his body. He's like, is this bad? Is this something bad? So he was like starving himself, but the horns would still grow, and he was getting all emaciated. And my friend who didn't read comics read this, and I remember when he gave me back like a stack of, he goes, what's going on? He's starving himself. Is he okay? Like, he was so into it, you know. So I consider that a success. All right. So these are the cast of characters. We got Maureen Vonnegut, and she's a biologist that's been assigned to study him, and we'll see why in a minute. Larry Monroe, he's like a gopher. This is like a classic. He's getting hired in this issue. So like we're meeting him, and we're learning about Concrete through the eyes of the new hire. And what's he do? He's just his assistant because Concrete can't dial the phone. You know, back then it was radial phones, and like if you'd pick up the phone and crush it and stuff like that. And this is Senator Mark Douglas. So like again, Paul Chadwick was working for a senator, writing speeches at the time. So you know, draw what you know. And he's like a typical politician, but he seems like he's a little bit more nicer than most, and he's the one like financing all of this. Why? You'll see. And then we get this Tawny Hill, a reporter, onto one hell of a story. So you see, she's trying to do an expose. Who is Concrete? And I just realized something. This story, this comic, influenced Heroic Tales in the fact that the government has a cover story, so that nobody knows the real origin. I just realized I probably ripped it whole cloth from this because the government has a fake story about Concrete and the real story about Concrete, and Tawny Hill is there to expose it. Growing Horns, is she my ex-wife? Sal Grumpy. Quartz, the Hebrew stone. That's a good name for a golem. If you make all golems are Jewish, right? Anyway, stop me, you know, if you want to say something. We're getting a Bogan raid. As long as they don't bring those horrible spiders that they got down there, like I think they're the size of chihuahuas. That, you know, they're all welcome. So, Michael Bancroft, have you ever read Concrete? All right, so as you can see, it's flat out regular storytelling. Larry Monroe is getting a job, and he's, you know, going to work for you know, he can't believe this. He's rejected. You know, I think he was like worked in the Hollywood studios, can't get a job, and now he's getting destitute, and he finds slightly handicapped author seeks typist and general aid. Travel opportunities, salary negotiable, some typing, driver's license, and a sense of adventure required. So he's just like, what is this? You know, I'm going to go work for an old pervert or something like that. Yeah. Concrete can't type. You know, this is before the internet, so he dictates everything. Larry. So he calls up. He's going down Hollywood Boulevard, and this is kind of interesting over here. He turns on the radio, and it's talk radio. And the first call, I just want to say I'm sick of this Concrete guy. Every time I turn on the radio, they talk about Concrete this. You know, it's an ad blitz. He's selling me jeans. He's selling me toothpaste. I want to get away from this guy. I'm sick of him. And then the newscaster goes, don't you think you're a functioning cyborg or real life bionic man is history making stuff? So you're like, what's going on?
Yeah, that's his exposition entry. It's like Frank Miller doing all the talking heads. You know, he just uses the radio, which is it's a good way to do it.
Right. Yeah. Oh, Micah has the girl with the dragon tattoo. Is that, or does that have to do with this? Or is he reading it? I thought maybe there was something in the background. But as you can see, Concrete for Coca-Cola, you know, Concrete burgers, everything Concrete. Like he's just driving that. It's a media blitz. Concrete. So and he has no idea he's going to work for Concrete. He's just desperate for a job. And then as he's driving down the street, he's got books about writing. A subtle way to see that this guy. That's right. He was a Hollywood
Yeah.
screenwriter that just couldn't get a job.
And they ask him like, "What's your story about?" He's about a writer, and he's kind of depressed. It's sort of like a running gag. And
Right.
yeah.
He can't get a job. I read J.M. De Mateus told the same story. And you know, yeah, I don't know, but J.M. De Mateus almost made a career. Like if he wasn't writing the Justice League or Doctor Fate, it's like I'm pitching a story for Vertigo. Oh, it's about a writer who made some poor choices and a little depressed, and he happens to find a guru with real magic powers and goes to the moon. Oh, really? Again? But he's talented, so I read every one of them. I read every one. So, as you can see here, there's kids with concrete masks. You know what I mean? There's concrete action figures. Everywhere he goes. And now what's going on? Concrete is just pacing, waiting for this person to show up, and he's listening. Just you know what I mean? It's like the internet right now. Somebody's talking about me. Oh, they're trash casting me. So, but I don't listen to the trash cast, but Concrete does. So he's listening to the trash, and Maureen is basically. She's like this stoic scientist. She's listening to all this, and like it's interesting sociology. This was bound to happen. And explaining to him how this is a normal reaction and stuff like that. And Concrete, again, he was a nerdy writer, and it can't help but bother him.
I will say that drawing in the middle of Concrete, like sitting on the cinder blocks, is a beautiful drawing. If you look at the pose, the way he's sort of like tilted up and his fingers around the thing, it's really well done.
Yeah, I do like. I would love to get like original art from him. Yeah, but that's one of the things that they. I followed Dave Brink on Twitter. Dave Brink does Genuine Comics. He does Perfect 10, and he was talking about like one of the things that bothers him is when they just shush away consequences of having superpowers. And we had like a little friendly little exchange, and I love Dave Brink. Get his comics, Perfect 10. They're the best superhero comics right now coming out. But he says like Quicksilver in the movies, just ran through and grabbed bullets and stopped and posed and and we were like saying, at what point is it not speed and it's time manipulation? Because like there's no displacement of the air. People, like to me, if you're running through a crowd, people should be falling down. Newspapers should be, you know what I mean? Like you like every speedster in superhero comics, they have speed, but they don't have momentum, meaning they could just turn on a dime. Like, you know what I mean? Like I give Flash the exception because all the DC characters are gods, but like Quicksilver, he shouldn't be able to turn on a dime. Like he should tumble, things and knock into people. You're reluctant to use the super speed because like, like you throw a punch and your hands, every bone in your body should break. You know what I mean? They should be picking up crowbars and hitting monsters instead of punching them, things like that. But I'm talking about this at length because Paul Chadwick spends so much time in real estate showing the consequences of having superpowers. He can't sit in a chair. He literally has to hire somebody to type. This is 87. I love all of that. Matter of fact, I'd say most of the stuff in this comic, most of the drama and tension comes from the side effects of having this body. I realize I'm talking too much and I'm not giving you enough.
No, you're fine. The one thing that immediately you think of is, like you said, the thing. You can't help make that connection in the beginning, but it's pretty apparent that Concrete is like the thing, except he's totally okay being in the body for the most part. Like it's not, he's not depressed, maybe a little reflective, but he doesn't. He's like, oh, there's this body and it does these things. It's not. Why am I cursed with this concrete body or anything like that?
Yeah, he does later issue. I don't know. You just have the one trade paperback?
I have a few, but I think they're quite a bit later than this.
Because in later issues, he does. After, like, right now, he's still new, and it's kind of exciting, and he's getting attention, and, he wants for nothing because he has, like, government funds. Now he literally has a endorsement deal. So he's, like, wealthy, but he starts to develop feelings for Maureen, and he sees like more it's a job. It's like, okay, I'm going to clock out now, and I'm going to go meet my boyfriend for dinner. And you see him by the window, like he doesn't complain.
Yeah.
Like he's like stoic, but I don't. I'm sure that's not in this issue, but that's like just a heartbreaking panel. She's like he's talking to her, and she's like, "Oh, all right, it's time. I got to go now." Well, what do you do? Like he's basically asking her out. Right? What do you do? She's like, oh, "I'm gonna go meet this guy. My friend set me up on." Because she's got problems too. She can't meet people. She's like a stoic scientist. She's like the classic career gal, smarter than everybody. So she's looking forward to going on a date, and he's just like, and he turns off the lights because his eyes are so good he doesn't need so he's just standing there in the dark, lit by the light of a street light. It's heartbreaking, but he doesn't complain. He's like,
Yeah, he's a science experiment for her, really, at least right now.
right, and that's what she is. She's a biologist. So, his Senator Douglas is this is Concrete in his human form. Yes, and I didn't talk about his origin yet because I'm putting it off. And here's Larry going to the door. You must be Larry. I'm Concrete. Obviously, I placed the Ed. And he had no idea he was going to see Concrete. So he's just like, and I love this he's shaking, the size difference and that. Pleased to meet you. And the whole way here, he was listening. He was passing Concrete toys and products and everything. You know what I mean? So he's like, what the? So they did a really good job of making you understand that this is like he's Sydney Sweeney right now.
Yeah.
He's everywhere. I go to Dunkin' Donuts at 5:00 in the morning every day to get a cup of coffee on my drive to work. And there's a loop of Sydney Sweeney like buying coffee at Dunkin' Donuts. You know what I mean? And then you drive by. There's a bulletin board of her getting. I'm not complaining. I'm just saying Concrete is the advertisement blitz, the media blitz. What a character could be said without whining. I don't think he whines. What do the chicks think of Concrete? That he's interesting. Nobody's in. There's nobody. The chicks aren't lining up outside his door to date him. You know what I mean?
Especially since they think he's an android or a robot or something.
Right. So now introductions. And look at this. This is the first time you see a little bit of tension. So have a seat. Meet Dr. Maureen Vonnegut, for whom I am an ongoing research project. Any relation to? Nope, not the writer nor the physicist. Pleased to meet you. My pleasure. You can't see it, but they emphasize my pleasure, and then Concrete's looking at him like, that's the first hint of trouble in paradise. Yes, Larry is a poon hound. That's one of the things that gets him in trouble. So now he's interviewing him, and he's telling him about. He goes, okay, so this is pretty much the gist of the comic over here. My needs are obvious, Larry. These huge fingers can't type, and I need help with everyday things, driving, getting tickets, and so forth. This body is an opportunity. I mean to use it to mount expeditions, dare great things, and earn my way by writing about them. I was a writer before I came to my present condition. Rock candy with action figure. Really, too, I'm working on a novel. Really, what about it? Briefly. So I love this. Okay, there's this guy. He's really depressed, and he goes to the window, and it's raining, and so he goes to the refrigerator, but there's nothing there but mayonnaise.
That's great.
It's like, sorry I asked. And then the phone rings, and he's like, thank God. And there's a half a bottle of lemon juice, And now we talk to the senator, and we find out that, there's a whole political intrigue side to this, And you start. I love this panel though. Let's get Postentious about this page. I can't help but compare every black and white comic book to Cerebus, and I can't help it to compare it to Will Eisner's The Spirit. I know The Spirit is in color, but the kitchen sink reprints were in black and white. So I was introduced to Will Eisner's The Spirit in black and white, and now I got hardcover collection that they're in color, and it just seems off to me because you're an artist. Like when I see black and white, I pay more attention to the lines than in color. What do you think
Yeah,
about that?
like I don't think you can draw the same way necessarily if it's going to be in color. Doesn't mean you can't just do a drawing in color, but you have to take certain things into consideration. This is a black and white comic, and you can tell from the drawing. A lot of those lines, like those really thin lines on concrete and other places, would totally get lost if it's colored. Like even on the cover, it's pretty big, but it kind of blends. But if it was like if you colored the inside of concrete, I think you would lose a ton.
Yeah, I mean, we would get used to it and not know what we were missing. But yeah, and it's funny that you say that because there's the comic. I think it lasted 36 issues, and then Paul, I think he started working for TV and just. I don't think it was ever canceled. It was just like when I get to it, I get to it. And then he did a series of miniseries, which were colored. And now I got to look at it. I wonder if he drew differently, knowing it was for color than black and white. Like,
Yeah,
would you draw different if you knew your work was going to be colored? And
for sure. Like I don't know if I could do a black and white book. I mean, you have to take grays into consideration a lot more. I mean, there's a lot of since I color my own books, it's like, well, I know I can do X with color. I can separate this character from the background better in color. But if it's a black and white, you don't have that rely on. I mean, this is a beautifully drawn comic. I don't know if like I pointed out a panel or two, but across the board, it's a really, really well done comic.
yeah, like this I I've been saying for years that up until like the the 90s, like from the beginning of comics to like the 90s, I never thought about it because I was a kid, but retroactively after reading Will Eisner stuff, he always said that comics were theater, and I thought that was pretentious and everything. And then I started noticing like, oh, the Ultimates, it's cinematic, stuff like the Planetary. I think was the first one that started like we're doing some cinematic comics, and then the Ultimates was cinematic comics, and then everything Marvel and DC. And then I went back to like the 80s comics, and even like Avengers and Fantastic Four. I'm like, it is theater. Like, like, and what I mean by that is this looks like a theater set.
Yeah.
It's just a couple of things, some lighting, like right over here. The only movie director that would have like this is like Orson Welles. He would do stuff like that, or maybe like
Yeah.
Brian De Palma, or like the real cinema guys. But like, I
Yeah, I just think that means contrived in a good way. I think I even posted on Twitter a while ago. I love poorly made sets for movies more than I like on location stuff. There's just something about that because it's contrived. They can change every little angle. They can do forced perspective. They can do all this interesting stuff as opposed to, hey, let's pick a building. This is where we're at.
Yeah, these like my favorite single issue of all times is the Horror Bro. This is a new name, unless it's somebody new. How you doing? Good to see you. Good to see new people. Always good to see new people. Thank you for popping in. Like this looks like a play right over here. There's a guy, he turns around on the set. I could picture like the guys that you're not supposed to notice moving this out of the way and putting, you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
like this is not this is like daytime TV. To me, that was always like cinematic, television, and I mean not cinematic theater, like the early Doctor Who, pre-revival. The sets were poor, and I loved all that. The original Star Trek, and even Next Generation was theater. The backgrounds were painted, and now you got the new Doctor Who's. They might have each episode has like the budget of a movie, and it just, I don't know. Sometimes you need like limitations to do the creativity, but like, I don't know. And then the 90s came, and Planetary and Ultimates changed. This is widescreen cinema, explosions, and I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just saying I noticed the difference. It made me realize what Will Eisner was talking about, and to get super postentious with the public eye, when I'm talking to Marcus, I keep telling him like, do it more like theater. And Ron Mosicki did the suit for my first issue, and I'm writing a script for him, and it's literally set in a theater. So I have like it used like Eisner as a model. Like
Yeah.
have a set piece in the middle and darkness around, and the bad guy's a theater critic, so it's going to be horrifying. There's
Yeah,
nothing worse.
the difference between like the ultimates and the spirit or something like that is the stuff that you pull out. And I don't have the ultimates in front of me. I haven't looked at it in 20 years, but you're right. In my brain, it's a movie, and I bet there's backgrounds in every single panel, and I bet they're all photo real and everything's perfect. But it's like when you start pulling backgrounds out and focusing on things, it's the stuff that you kind of leave out that gives it like the art aspect of it.
Right. I mean, like again, this like did he color this dark as a creative choice? Was it a way to oh crap, I could save some time over here because it worked. And then look at this panel. There's literally nothing in the background.
Yep.
But I keep saying this that our brain fills this in. Like I was telling Marcus, I'm like, you know, you don't need to fill in every detail. Like if you have them set in the city and then in the middle panel it's just the guy punching the bad guy, your brain's going to fill it in. I want it to look like old theatrical comics. Maybe the patriarch flying through Science City fighting monsters. That maybe that'll be more. But I do like this. There's something about black and white comics, and I don't know. I think like a cinematic comic wouldn't work in black and white. Like Love and Rockets. Sometimes there's minimal backgrounds. Do you get Love and Rockets?
I don't. One
that-
last
that
thing
would
on
be
the
perfect.
black and white comics is I'm like I don't think I could do a black and white just because it's not my style currently that I do. But then I'll look at this or I'll look at Savage Sword of Conan or something that's black and white, and I'm like, that's the pinnacle. You know what I mean? Like if I could do a black and white comic, that would be just freeing.
Yeah, RJ from the Fourth Age is doing black and white and then blue, fade to blue. So I'm really, and it looks so good. A couple of guys did some black and white comics I picked up. I should crowdfund. Henry Bemis asked, John, did you ever get the Comic Buyer's Guide, essentially a weekly newspaper about comics? Yes, I did. I loved it. It literally was a newspaper by Tom, uh, Maggie, and Don Thompson. And Peter David had a weekly article about it called "The Law Is an Ass" or "A Ass." There was a lot of good stuff, and I really, really, really enjoyed it. Long form interviews, like it folded out to like a big newspaper, and you got to read everything that George Perez, wasn't just like a tidbit. It was like an in-depth interview about their whole career. It was really good, and I had them all. I had literally like 7 years of them stacked on my dresser, and then one year it was super cold and a boiler broke down, and my father built a coal burning stove in the basement of the house. My father's like, I can't believe this. We're moving backwards. He bricklayed and made a coal with like a little chimney chute to heat the house. And every day, my Comics Buyer's Guide were gone.
It's terrible.
And then my brother's pretty much the same thing. His boiler blew up, and it was just like a big. My father just went over with like a big stack of. There you go. He didn't burn my comic books, but Comic Buyer's Guide did not make it through the winter of our discontent. Oh, horror, bro. Sometimes leaving it up to our imagination is the best route. I totally agree.
Yeah.
I totally agree. Like, I talk about this a lot, but our brain is animating this. Our brain understands that this isn't just a moment of time. Like, we understand that this is read first, then this and this. So there's time in this, and they're moving. The little rocks. Yeah, I've been spending way too much time on this page, but let's get to the next. So one of the things that they didn't explain yet is concrete has like supervision, like super eyesight. In a later issue, he's standing trial, and the guy's like, how did you see this? You were a quarter mile away. And he's like, not for nothing, but I got superior eyesight. And like, oh yeah? And he's like, yeah, prove it. And he goes, you see that flag? And through the window, there's a little flag on a flagpole. He goes, there's 17 stitches on the 12th star. So they're like, oh, good move. We can't prove that. So they go and they get the flag, they bring it in, they count it. You know what I mean? So he's watching from the back as Larry is flirting with Maureen. And at this point, Concrete, I don't know if he has feelings for her or if he's just jealous that this is a normal, healthy couple. But you could see she's being coy. She's kind of looking at it. And she's, like I said, she's lonely too. She's the awkward, brilliant scientist. You know, uh,
Yeah, I don't think they're. Oh, it's not overt, but it is in those in the eyes and some of the facial expressions. Like concrete. Maybe it's affection, but at the end of this issue, we realize it's not just like a friendship affection. It's definitely more than that.
right. I mean, look. So I mean, look at this. Like he's. I can't say I've thought of. Does the rubber lay down and the skid compensate in a row? But I can't say. May I call you Maureen? And she's like looking down and she's looking at him in a weird way. So tell me, Maureen, are you in concrete like a couple? And she's like, ha ha, Larry. I find him rather hard to see him with any woman. No, to me, he's just the most fascinating research subject a biologist could have. We could learn so much from him. And then he's in the back, just like scathing. She's like, ha ha, couple. Pshaw, me and concrete. And here he is. Hearing none of this, concrete simply reflects on the loneliness of the laughing smile on the right person. So he doesn't even know what they're saying, but he's just watching her and Larry have a normal human interaction, a little bit of flirting. What do you mean? Didn't you people build him? Not that you. How could you not know about him? So boom, that's the first indication that not all is as it seems. What do you mean? Why are you studying him? Didn't you build him? Oh, I mean, as a working system, testing the limits. Oh, I'm not married or anything either. Right back to flirting. So
it is funny because, like, obviously, his body doesn't look anything resembling like a robot would.
Right.
I mean, there's no joints. It's not metal. Like it's a pretty big stretch for even sort of like of a cover story.
Right. Yeah. You guys should do an episode on Death of Speedy. Yeah, that's a good one. That and Heartbreak Soup. Death of Speedy would be good because that's Jamie, and Heartbreak Soup because that's Gilbert. That's a good idea, Henry. Yeah. So stop beating around the bush. The government's cover story is that he's a cyborg made by the military. So there's a human brain in there. Like they tell everybody that. So he is a human volunteer. I think they said he was like burnt, and or on deathbed or something like that. So he volunteered, and they keep his anonymity for his family, and he's a cyborg. But what really happened is he was abducted by aliens. So he was out hiking one day. He sees the lights, typical abduction story. He's awake in a tube and he sees a bear, a deer, and all the aliens look like this. And then he wakes up, he's in the body, and he sees his body, but it's got goggles on because the aliens have super vision. So when he got his eyesight, they were like, so the deer has goggles on, the bear has, and the aliens are walking around in a bear body, a deer body, and then they just leave him. The inscrutable aliens. So he has an alien body. So he's totally organic, not a cyborg, but the government doesn't want to admit that there's space aliens, much less space aliens abducting people. So, and I think it's like, that's not the point of the comic. The point of the comic isn't aliens and space intrigue. The point of the comic is Paul Chadwick was sickly as a kid. What would I do if I had a superior body? And it's all about adventures. Like the next issue, he swims the Atlantic Ocean. Another issue, he walks across the Sahara Desert. Pushing the limits to see what he could do. So that's what really got me. It was how different it was. Tim Olson, I didn't have a wrench, so I can't post a link. Can I call you moron? Why would you want to call me moron? What did I do? Off to draw. Good show tonight, John and Fabrizio. Arkham's drawing a story for me now. Showed me some thumbnails. It's looking pretty good. So anyway.
Oh, I do want to mention something about the lettering, and I have to admit, this bothered me. The top of the balloons, a bunch of them are just like straight and cut off. Did you notice that?
Yeah.
And it's an awkward thing to read. I'm not gonna lie. It took me.
Oh, really?
Like, I don't. You know what? I'm gonna actually check. I don't know if. Yeah, this has normal lettering.
So you think it was relettered for the trade?
I don't know. I mean, I guess it would had to have been, but it was abrupt and awkward. I've never seen anything like it, honestly.
Well, because now that you got me to notice, I really didn't notice.
but it's like,
Like good lettering is almost invisible. You just accept it and move on. Like when you notice lettering, it's really bad. For my comic, I have to notice the lettering because I have to approve everything. So like I think Bill Williams does phenomenal lettering, but like I'm not going to mention names, but one of my friends has a comic, and I was like, you got to redo that lettering. You know, you know, it's like electrical work. If you're
yeah.
noticing the electrical work, you did bad electrical work. It should be invisible. I'm talking about piping and buildings and stuff. But yeah, look at this. The top is cut off. Now I can't help but notice
Well,
it.
well, that actually is okay. Like if you go to on that page on the left where it says "Oh well" at the bottom on the left, I mean as a working system, like the top of the balloon doesn't touch the panel border, but
Oh
it's still cut off.
yeah, yeah,
That's so weird.
yeah. Like over here, the panel border cuts it off, so I didn't notice it. But if you notice, it's almost like a style choice. The top of the balloons are just flat.
Yeah, it was awkward. I'm not gonna lie.
Who did the lettering? So Paul Chadwick also did the lettering. Yeah,
Did
but
he?
look, like right here, it's really pronounced.
Yeah, it's so strange.
Yeah, yeah. So you know, uh, uh, so you have the first issue, right? In your trade.
No, I have the floppy for the first issue.
Oh, okay, okay. I was gonna say, I wonder if we did it for the trade. Yeah, yeah, like right here. So tell me, Maureen. Yeah, yeah. This doesn't bother me because at least
Yeah.
my brain fills in that it's a balloon. Okay, and then over here, it's a circle. It's flat, flat, flat,
Yeah,
and then
yeah.
over here it's a circle. So yeah, I wonder if it's just Paul Chadwick. Like at the time, he was like, "I'll save some money and do my own lettering, and I'll teach myself on the fly."
Maybe.
Yeah, it's funny because one of my friends lettered his own comics, and I was like, "No way, no way." There's a reason. It's a skill. There's a reason why people get paid to do it.
And it's such it's a niche skill. Like, yeah, I draw, I write, I do that other stuff. But when it got time for me to letter, I bought a couple of books on lettering, watched a bunch of videos. Like, you have to shift your mindset. And I'm not big on you have to do these rules every time. I mean, I get that, but you should at least know what they are. And if you're going to break them, you should know why you're breaking them.
Yeah, I agree. So now they're in an airplane. So now he's explaining to Larry what his job is. Like, in a way, this is like in real life. It's like, oh, okay, I want a job, and then you show up, and it's this eccentric millionaire, and like 3 hours later, you're flying on a plane. It's like, don't do it, ladies and gentlemen. Don't take that job. Work for a couple of weeks around the house before you get on the plane with that eccentric millionaire, especially if you're a lady. Yeah, but Larry,
It's like Alien Howard Hughes or something.
yeah, yeah. But Larry's hitting on Maureen. So he said, "Here's what I want you to do, Larry. Take pictures. Yeah, get on my airplane and take a lot of pictures. Don't do it, lady. Don't take that job. Just be comfortable when you take those pictures, Fabrizio.
Just let it happen.
Smile more. Smile more. Take pictures of all the principals involved and whatever you can get of me. Also, make a chronology of events and get the spellings of everyone's names. I'm going to be busy. What exactly are you doing?" Because I dig with my hands. He goes, "What do you do?" He goes, "I dig with my hands. I break any tools I use because I haven't had this body long enough to know what my capabilities." He goes, "Aren't you invulnerable?" He goes, "Hardly. I'm about as tough as a rock of my size. Drop me from a plane and I'll break. If dropped into water, I'd sink, but I could walk. I could hold my breath for about an hour. And one more thing, I have the most wonderful vision." So he's in an airplane and he's reading the license plates of cars. And I like this. He goes, "See that car down there? The license plate is 1K544." He's like, "Are you sure?" And then Larry goes, "If you say so." And he's thinking, he's putting me on. Because there's no way for him
Yeah.
to prove it. But, did they show the license plate on the car? Yes, they. So they showed the license plate of the car to us to prove that he's not flying. Now we have the first indication of concrete feelings. He's coming down. The press is all. Remember, there's a full press junket, swarming him everywhere he goes. And I might as well explain it now. This Senator Douglas is a crafty politician. So when they found concrete wandering around, they made a deal with them. Like, we can't let people know that you're really a space alien. Plus, he was a speechwriter already, so he had contacts in the government. And it was Concrete's idea. He goes, no, tell everybody. I'm a robot scientist for the military, and tell everybody. Put me on Johnny Carson, put me everywhere. So I'm not. If you kind of hide me and then somebody takes a picture, I'm going to be like Bigfoot, and everybody's going to come out of the woodwork looking for me. But if you're putting me in everybody's face, it's going to be an uncomfortable 6 months, and then everybody's going to be sick of me. So we are right in the middle of the media blitz, and it does happen. After a while, they move on to the next. Think about all the crazy things. Like right now, Tulsi Gabbard is hinting that they're space aliens, and nobody cares. They're talking about we're going to get invaded in November, and we're all just like, shut up. You know what I mean? Like 10 years ago, churches would be full. You know what I mean? Like, we are so oversaturated and stimulated with the craziest of information that we don't believe anything anymore. 80s, I guess, Can you imagine if 1987 we said that the government has like credible information about aliens? That's all we would be talking about.
Yeah, and I'm still the lone person that doesn't believe in aliens, but I guess we'll see.
Other than Superman, there are many superheroes that have X-ray vision. Hitman, he has telepathy and X-ray vision. That's his only two superpowers. I want to believe in aliens, but I'm too much of a skeptic about everything. I don't believe anything. Like, my first reaction on almost anything is bullshit. Prove it. So it's like sometimes my wife gets annoyed at me because like, oh, this guy works at this. I don't believe it. Like, what do you? I'm like, I don't believe it.
If you want to be the most popular person at a party, defend Scientology, because I end up defending Scientology because I'm like, okay, so let me get this straight. Everything that you believe is based on Leah Remini. You know what I mean? Like a King of Queens actress comes forward, and now we're supposed to believe every word she says. What? Like, for what reason? If Kevin James comes out and says the opposite, are we not supposed to believe her? Like, what? Why do we lend credibility to just random people? It doesn't make any sense to me.
It's funny. I told you that was one of my hobbies, was trying to join cults. Yeah. I got thrown out of a Scientology center. I'm the only person in the history of the universe to get the bum rush. I got the 23 Skidoo out of Scientology.
We don't want your money. Tom Cruise hates you. You're out.
Yeah, just leave. Just leave. We don't. L. Ron Hubbard doesn't need you. But I'm like, at the risk of alienating people, but I think I have a cultivated audience. And like, as soon as the COVID happened, I was like, this isn't what's happening. There's something else going on. Like, and then the vaccine came out. I'm like, it takes 10 years for medicine to get to market. And they just have this 6 months later. Something is going on. And it was so great to hear some of my friends like, we're not taking this.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, I'm skeptical. I want to see what happens to everybody else first. I remember talking to one of my friends who's a doctor, and what did he say? Just get it. I'm like,
yeah, unfortunately, I'm one of the very, very few people that I know that never did it. But even people that I know that I'm like, they would never get it. Eventually, you sort of succumb to this constant like flood of friends and family, and like you said, doctors. Just do it, and they do it. And I'm like, no, I am for the first time in my life stubborn. My stubbornness actually benefited me.
Yeah, I've always been that guy that like, oh, you got to like this. Well, I don't like it now. Like, yeah. I still don't like the band U2 because back in the 80s, Fabrizio could probably back me up. In the 80s, you had to like U2. It was like, do you like water? Yeah. Then you like U2. Do you breathe? Then you like U2. Same with, oh, you're from New York and you don't like Bruce Springsteen? And forget about it when I tell people I don't like Billy Joel. It's like, you're a Long Islander. I'm like, I don't like Billy Joel.
Yeah.
And it's. At first, it was just stubbornness. Now it's just like, what sunken cost fallacy. I went 30 years hating this guy. I'm not gonna like him now.
Very true.
John, it was your beard that intimidated them. It's coming back. It's coming back. I just, like I said, I got tar in the beard. But like people, like you have to like movies would come out, and I'm like, I'm not seeing that movie. Why? Because everybody's seen that movie. I still have never seen It's a Wonderful Life because I'm too stubborn. Because everybody tells me I have to see that movie, so I've never seen It's a Wonderful Life since third grade. Everybody's like, "What do you mean you haven't seen?" I vowed that I was never going to see this movie. So that,
Yeah, it sets your expectations so high it couldn't possibly live up to like all the hype over years and years and years of stuff. So yeah.
I mean, I'm trying to think of like all like going through the '80s. I never got a tattoo. I never smoked.
I got a lot of things pierced, but even then I'm like, those things will heal.
I never got a piercing. Never got a tattoo. Punk rocker guy. So without a tattoo, I went to college in the '90s and I didn't get a tattoo. I always get a joke that I was going to be the untattooed man in a circus someday. Look.
Yeah, it's funny. I don't have any tattoos either. I drew a lot of tattoos because all my friends were just covered in tattoos. And I have something, it's the Fabrizio tattoo curse. Anytime I would draw a tattoo for a friend of mine, something would happen. I would never speak to them again. So we would have a falling out. It happened over and over again to the point where I'm like, listen, if I draw you this whatever, we're never going to speak again. What are you talking about? We're best friends. I'm telling you, it's a curse. And these people are walking around with tattoos that I put on them, which is a weird thing.
That's me and dumpling. After a while, you're with your girlfriend, you get a little domestic. So I was like, let's make dumplings. Let's make homemade dumplings. So we bought like little like square sheets of dumpling, and you cut up the pork and you make dumplings. I bought that. We went into the refrigerator and then promptly broke up. And then years later, I'm with another girl, and I'm telling them the story. Yeah, so it's something I always wanted. Let's make homemade dumplings. So we buy the thing, put it in the refrigerator. That weekend, we get into like a fight. We break up. So my wife now, I'm like, we're not making dumplings.
Just not going to risk it.
Dumplings. So we all have those things. John, I'm following your hatred of that which is popular. Did you hate? I love Santa Claus. Oh my God, my wife is mad at me that I don't look like Santa Claus anymore. She commanded me to grow the beard back before Christmas. I love Christmas. I love Santa Claus. I love Halloween.
Me too.
I love the 4th of July. Easter is a weird holiday because it's like so solemn. The tattoo curse happened to me. I didn't know it was a thing until now.
That's awesome. I mean, that's not awesome, but that's great to hear.
Like you have the tattoo and you hate the guy that did it, or you designed the tattoo and, I have a punk tattoo that's so old and blown out, his mohawk became an afro. I always wanted to get the Black Flag bars, and I never did. I actually sat in the chair and chickened out at the last moment.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a classic, though. Although Black Flag has turned into sort of like the Misfits insofar as it's a symbol now,
Right.
But for a long time, it was like, oh, you knew they were real if they had like some Black Flag thing. But now it's like, it's the Misfits, basically.
Yeah, it's funny. My buddy's wife, we grew up listening to bands, and he sent me a picture of him and his wife and Greg Ginn, the guitarist of Black Flag. And all I could think of is, you were listening to Debbie Gibson, and now you're hanging out with Greg Ginn.
That's funny.
Operation Ivy is funny. I was sick of music. Literally, I was like, I don't even want to listen to music anymore. Do you ever get that? Like, I'm done with music. I'm never gonna. And my friend came over. He's like, check out this band, Operation Ivy. And I was like, I don't want to. And Operation Ivy just like jump started music again. Like I listened to nothing but Operation Ivy for like 6-7 months, and it just like, rekindled my fire for music. That was like around 2005 or so. I'm sure I was late to the Operation Ivy.
To this day, when Sound System pops up in my rotation, like I do a little jig.
Yeah, I love that album. I really, and it's funny because guys are like, oh, you like that? That's Posers. I'm like, shut up. all punk rock is any post rock since 1993, since the death of G.G. Allen. All punk rock is poser. G.G. Allen died in 1993, and that was the death of punk. Now that they're using it for commercials and everything like that, I'm surprised it's not like real estate ads, like with the Misfits on it.
I'm surprised when he died that like all of the diseases and the crust on him didn't like seep into the groundwater in that area and just spring up like a new.
Have you been to New York lately?
That's true.
Oh, that green garbage juice that goes down it's still coming out from the St. Mark's Hotel where G.G. Allen died. That glow in the dark green slime with a rainbow sheen on it. That's New York, ladies and gentlemen. Trash bags in the street, dripping green garbage juice down into puddles. There's New York. I'm working in the New York City public schools right now. In the basements of these schools, Fabrizio, there's a big piano. So I'm running wire, and there's all the way at the end of this murky, mosquito-infested tunnel. I'll take a picture of it tomorrow. It's just a perfectly good piano. And there's just wet cardboard boxes on top of it, and there's a busted pipe just dripping on it.
Oh.
So like, how much does a piano go for? You know what I mean? Like $50,000 for to buy a piano.
They're expensive.
Like an upright piano, not like a grand piano. But
yeah.
Still. So some music teacher asked for a piano. They allocated the funds. They played some, and then they pushed. How they got it down this basement, I'll never know. And pushed it like it's almost like outside the building as far as possible. And there's garbage on it. And I got a pipe bender that's like. I'm going to get myself in trouble saying this. It's bending the pipe, and the pipe swings, and it's like scratching this piano. You know what I mean? Like, it's in like the worst possible place. Water's dripping on it. I'm like, so I was playing it, just to hear. It still sounded pretty much in tune.
That's sad.
But there's New York for you. There's your tax dollars, ladies and gentlemen. But they got to raise your taxes to pay for the schools so they can throw pianos in the corner. It's just gross. Just gross. So anyway, let's get back to this. So Maureen Vonnegut trips and falls down the stairs. She pulls a Joe Biden. She's falling down the stairs in front of everybody. And Concrete immediately turns into like alpha male right here. Stay back, get away from her. And he picks her up and he runs her to a doctor. Pretty obvious the feelings for her, And I like this. Again, the consequences of his body is a major part of this comic series. As he's running, he's putting divots in the tarmac, And now, like, Larry Monroe is just like, hi, I'm Larry. I'm his new assistant. Like, he's like, pay no attention to the crazed freak who just ran away. And so he goes, let me stress to you the importance of public perception. You can't run away like a crazy person. You know what I mean? Like, he's like, sorry, like he looks ashamed, but like whatever my credits, my labors bring may belong to him. So he's using, like I said, he's a savvy politician. Whatever Concrete does is he's trying to funnel that into votes for the guy. So now, as they're talking, this woman rushes up and there's been a mine collapse. He goes, we'll do everything. Clock's running out. Where's this mine shaft? Like, he just interrupts the senator. Like, game's on. So now we're going to get to the action portion of everything else was character development. And, like, I like this. There's a mine shaft collapse. Just perfect working class hero kind of thing. He's coming down. Where is it? This guy's already drilling. I like it. It looks real. There's clouds of smoke. He has what's called, I call him a Hilti, but it's an SDS. There's a whole bunch of a hammer drill. There's a whole bunch of names for all these tools. He's got a tripod mounted one that's probably too heavy to carry, but I used a smaller version of this just today. You got the ear, protection. It's all rings true. I like all that stuff. So Paul either has a blue collar family or did a lot of research. And what does he do? This is I even like. You see how they have the line? Like, this is a lot of my job right here. You see these lines of these temp lights. Like, we'll go to buildings that are pitch dark. The carpenters aren't going to work. The steam fitters aren't going to work. The iron workers aren't going to work in the dark. And because of the way work is divided, the division of labor, the electricians. So I'll go in with like a battery powered lamp and run all of these. That's always fun. You blast music. You're the only guy there. You and your partner. You laugh and joke around because nobody's going to come and check up on you in a dark place. So it's also bad if you bleed to death. So you just don't bleed to death. So anyway, he's like a dog.
I love that shot. It's a tiny panel, horizontal, but it tells you everything you need to know. It's a great use of a silhouette, but it is funny. It's like I think even mentions like it's not dignified.
Right. Well, this is hardly dignified, but it may work. Yeah. And I love this. Excuse me. I'm Tawny Hill with NRP1. You're with concrete, aren't you? Why, yes. And I just love the name Tawny Hill. That's a perfect name for an exploitive reporter. And here's Larry. He's been working with them less than 24 hours, I'm sort of his collaborator. I'm a novelist, but I'm helping keep track of things for a possible article. A novelist, really? Yes, I'm working on it now. Oh, I'd love to hear about it. Well, the guy wakes up, he looks out the window, he puts some butter on his toast, It's Fabrizio, you when people ask you, "Oh, you make comic books?" I purposely don't talk because I know nobody wants to hear. They're just being polite.
Yeah.
What do you do?
Yeah, it's the same thing. If they really press me on it, I'll answer. But I'm like, yeah, I write and draw a comic, and that's pretty much it. That's as
They're
far
just
as it
being
goes.
polite, and they're like, "Oh, that's an interesting thing."
Yeah.
You start telling them the lore. 40,000 years ago. Nobody cares.
Yeah.
Like, I do this a lot, and it always backfires. But like at work or something like that, you're with the guy for like 40 hours a week, and like, oh, you play? I used to play Dungeons and Dragons. Oh yeah, I love Dungeons and Dragons. Oh yeah. Oh, I had this 12th level wizard, and next thing you know, it's like 4 hours later, and I'm just like, and he's telling me about his +2 magic sword and how his GM was the greatest DM that ever existed, and the story was great, and the lore. And I'm like, I don't care. And then I realize I do the same thing. So nobody wants to hear about your dreams. Nobody wants to hear about your D&D campaign, and not anybody wants to hear about your comic book.
No, I mean, I wish that wasn't true, but it is. And it's something I'm constantly aware of to the point where people, why aren't you talking? I'm like, you don't want to hear what I have to say, basically. I'm at Thanksgiving, I'm eating turkey and mashed potatoes. We can do this in silence. It's totally fine.
We don't have to talk. I'm perfectly fine. I live in my head anyway. Like today, I work by myself. I had the best day, I plotted out a story. I scratched the piano. I ran some pipe. It was fun. Got eaten by mosquitoes. I had an apprentice today, and I'm trying to show her how to use the pipe bender. And she's like, I don't want to go over there. There's mosquitoes. And I'm like, I want to be here. Like you pick this job. Get over here, get eaten by the mosquitoes, and bend the freaking pipe because pipe ain't gonna bend itself. So she don't like me. Everybody else babies her because she's a girl. I'm like, I don't play that game. I don't play that game.
Mosquitoes?
Yeah. It's like yesterday she did one of the things the apprentice has to do is get everybody coffee. And yesterday I was so sleepy. I really wanted a cup of coffee, but she didn't ask me. So coffee came, I'm like miserable now. I want coffee and I don't have coffee and I'm miserable. And we're on our break and everybody, like, why didn't you ask John? Oh, because he wasn't where I was when I asked everybody. I go, You come to me. You're the apprentice. You come, like everybody else just like makes excuses for it. So now like she's, do you want coffee? Yes, I do. Yes.
Well, the fact that she learned, I mean, that's unique in and of itself. Like at my work, we have people that work for us. There's zero learning curve. You can tell them the same thing 100 times. It doesn't make a difference.
They gave the foreman all the keys to all the buildings, all the cabinets, all the special closet. Because we're electrician, we got to get everywhere. They got tired of being like, open this for me, and then we would wait for 40 minutes. So my foreman has a key ring. They made up a key of everything. She had the keys for like 30 seconds and lost them.
Oh my God.
And it's like, I'm like, everybody's just like, nobody. I'm like, you understand this is a fireable offense. Like the foreman could get fired. Like this guy, this custodian gave keys to like elevators and places that we shouldn't have the keys to.
Damn.
He took a risk. Like He's being nice. I said, you got to go find those. But I just get mad that nobody else says anything. And the funny thing is, he didn't tell anybody, but he found the keys, and he's not telling her. He's like, don't anybody tell her I found the keys. So she's like freaking out. Like, we have a cart that we put our tools on, and she had to spray paint red, and she just spray painted the whole freaking cart as taxi. You don't want to put your tools on it because your tool bag's going to get red. Like, you don't use cardboard? Well, I just figured it. I was like, you got to start thinking. I am so mean. I am the worst at work.
I'm pretty mean too. But I some of these people have never been yelled at for anything.
Yeah, she backed out on Friday and she hit the carpenter's car. And the carpenter was like, we have to talk.
Jesus Christ.
I was like, go deal with that. You can't just hit somebody. And today, I park in the parking lot, and she pulls in next to me, and I just looked at her and pulled out and parked. What do you think caused that? I will totally. I was going to say I don't want to sound like an old man, but then I'll embrace the old man. I'm listening to Louis Prima. I'm growing a gray old beard. I'll embrace the old man. I don't want to say it's kids today. It's adults today. Kids just don't have consequences. Like, every kid goes through this. Like, I remember when I first started as an apprentice, I was like late for work, like every day. And I started like, yeah, well, I woke up today in the train, and the foreman goes, I don't care. Tomorrow you're fired if you're late. I don't care why you're, and that was just like I can't afford to be fired.
Yeah.
And I just stopped with the experiences, excuses like, and then you call up. It's like, I can't come in today because, like I woke up and then my stomach, and the foreman goes, I don't give a crap. You're not coming in by, like you're an adult. If you're not coming in, just appreciate, you got to call me, let me know.
Yeah.
I don't care, So like, it's funny because now we just text message, not coming in. And then you get a thumbs up. Nobody cares. Nobody asked. But like, she doesn't come in. And
fake
it's like,
excuses. Yeah.
I don't need a week-long itinerary of why you're not coming in. Like, you're not coming in. You're an adult. You decide. And we also, if you don't come to work, you don't get paid. There's no sick days or anything like that. So it's like, you're not getting paid. And it's really painful because we do our own pay. Like we have to submit our hours every week.
Yeah.
So when you submit in the day, like, you're always tempted to lie. But you know what I mean? I want to put in 40 hours, but I only did 32 hours. But you're an adult. You took the day off. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then you're gonna lie and then get fired over 8 hours pay. Don't take off if you can't afford. That's what the foreman always say. Whatever you can afford, John. Whatever you can afford. So I don't know if it's a generational thing. Some apprentices. I just think that it's just like. Her parents are lawyers. What are you doing being a construction worker when your parents are lawyers? And it's just like, I just hit somebody's car. Like, you got to go deal with him. You got to go through insurance. The police are going to come. You're like, what do you go deal with that? You're not doing anything because I don't want you to do anything because you can't do anything.
I mean, I do think, last comment on this, every generation, like when I think about like the people at my work and they're 30 something years old, I peg them like emotionally and intellectually as me and my friends in like high school. You know what I mean? And I'm sure my dad, it was even further back. Like the further we go, it's like they're still like 15 or 16 year olds and they're 30 years old. Why? I don't know, but
I mean, I'm fully aware that I'm 57 years old, close on 60 years old, and I have a show about comic books, and I'm making comic books, and you know what I mean? And I got my Joey Lawrence bookmark. There's nobody more childish than me. But when you go to work, you got to go to work.
Yeah.
There's no excuse. I wake up every day, at 5 o'clock in the morning. I get to work 25 to 30 minutes early. Like the owner of my business once a week shows up, and they're always, the foreman's like, like, he gives us a heads up, he's coming tomorrow. Everybody, well, John, you're always on time, but you got to be on time. Like there's other guys that are like in their 30s, and they still can't get to work on time.
Yeah.
It's like, dude, get to work on time. I remember that when I was applying for this job, I'm sitting before a board of like old time electricians. These are the kind of guys that were like building the trade center with the B16 drinking at, and tools in the other hand, Hungovers didn't exist. You went to work, and they're just asking me, okay, what do you do if you got to be in the Bronx at 7 o'clock start? And what do you? I was like, I wake up and I get to work on time. Okay, let's just say you're at the Brooklyn Navy Yard and you got to be there at 7. I'm like, I wake up and I get to work on time.
Yeah.
And then the next guy asked me, I'm like, forgive me, like I interrupted him. I'm like, I'm hearing that getting to work on time is a problem, and this is I get to work on time. You just do it. And they're like, no further questions. Like I was hired right then and there, but other guys were like, well, you got to understand that, like, things happen and then come, now you get to work on time.
Yeah.
Like on Saturdays, if I'm taking the train, I got to wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning to get to work at 7 because the Saturday schedule, it's what you do. And then you get to work and you sleep at work for an hour and a half.
My first real job was at this advertising agency. And the way it worked, I had to take a bus to get there. And I'm like, all right, well, I want to be a half hour early. And the bus is here. And, well, sometimes that bus is late and I might miss it. Anyway, I kept on backing it up to the point where I got to this interview literally 3.5 hours early because I could not afford to miss this interview at this advertising agency. So I'm just walking around town. I go to the church. I hang out because it was that important.
Right.
But I don't think anybody thinks like that.
I had to take a test to become an electrician. I didn't know it at the time. I thought it was just going to be me in a room with like a proctor or something like that. But it turned out there was like 600 people in an auditorium. I wore my grandfather's ill-fitting suit. You know what I mean? And I got my shoes polished, and I went and I'm sitting at a table. The guy next to me was wearing a poncho and sandals. And I'm like, am I wrong or is he wrong? Like, this was a job interview. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, as I was interviewing, I also got interviewed. I was going to be the guy who handled all the money for the Empire State Building. There's a tourist trap up at the top. You pay like $20 for a ticket, and the elevator takes you to the top of the Empire State Building. And all you do is look around and then come down. It's the biggest tourist trap in the world. I literally got hired to be the guy who manages the counting room. There's a room where they count all the money. And I showed up 2 hours early. I got a free ride to the top. I showed everything. I was in the room with all of this money and everything like that. And like, you're hired. And I was like, oh, cool. And then the next day I got hired as an electrician. So I was like, so, and she was just like, oh man, I liked you. She basically said, you showed up on time. You wore a suit,
Yeah.
I was like, who, you're handling like 20 grand a day. Like, who are these morons showing up without a suit? Yeah. I don't know. This has nothing to do with concrete, ladies and gentlemen. By the way, don't show up for a date several hours early. Yeah. with binoculars. Yeah. Don't show up to a date early with binoculars. It's not a good look.
You can just hang out at their house.
Yeah. What are you doing? Don't mind me. I'm just gonna sit in the chair and I'm gonna sit in the car across the street.
Yeah.
With binoculars.
In the tree across the street.
Yeah. Hey, never read Concrete. Well, from this talk, you're not really gonna you're not gonna experience it either. Last thing, like he says, I wonder if the lack of giving AF will cause the absolutely,
for sure,
absolutely. Like I'm working right now, I go to different jobs. I was at the airport for a while. The airport was fine because like the airport, it has like it has its own standards. Everything has to be, there's a lot of eyeballs on the airport. Nobody wants anything wrong at the airport. So the airport, it was kind of refreshing because everything was done properly and everything like that. You had everything you needed. I'm working in the New York City public school system right now. Half the toilets don't work. Like, not to be gross, but you go to the bathroom and you flush the toilet, it doesn't work.
No kidding.
And it's not, I'm like, is this just turned off because it's the summer? They're like, no. So you're telling me like you're paying taxes, kids are going to the bathroom and the toilets don't work. You know what I mean? Like, is there any wonder, like, I don't know, if I was a little kid and I had to go to the bathroom and I go in there and there's just disgusting mess in the toilet, and
yeah,
it's demoralizing, to do away with the whole public school system. I won't do that again. After my 5th time, I learned my lesson. Yeah. So I found a bathroom that works in this entire building, and like, it's my secret bathroom, and you bring your own toilet paper because that's one thing you learn in construction. Carry your own toilet paper. Bring it to work. It's in my tool bag. All right, so back to Concrete. So he's I love this panel. You know, he's showing the speed at which he's just like doggy paddling, because time is of the essence. There's miners trapped in here, and Concrete, because of his alien metabolism now, he literally has a human brain. That's the only thing that is human in his body. Is his They took out his brain, put it in the alien body, took the alien brain, put it in the human body. So he doesn't even get tired. So he's just, you know, and now he's, I wonder what's causing these structural collapses, blah, blah, blah. Could another one happen? So he's thinking about stuff like that. Meanwhile, Larry is hitting it up with this woman reporter. And she's like, yeah, Concrete and I are pretty tight. It's less than 24 hours, but he's like I said, back in the 80s, he's macking. He's macking on this chick. Yeah, he's a pretty interesting man, a complex man. Oh, what did he do before he got that body? Remember, the cover story was that he's a cyborg. Oh, he was a writer. Oh, really? What kind of writer? And then Maureen does the cock block. But shouldn't she? Oh, geez, I just got distracted. Excuse me, Larry, but Concrete's brought out 2 men alive. Shouldn't you go and photograph it? He's like, oh, I gotta go. And she's like, damn, there was a story. There's something here something's not right here. She's got reporter instincts. So there you go. The facade is falling. So now Concrete rescues 2 workers. And again, can you see this? Like the subtle facial expressions.
Yep.
Concrete is a good guy. The human being in the Concrete body. He's a good guy. He's savvy, political, and he came up with this idea: saturate the media with me, so people are sick of me. Paradoxically, I'll have some peace. Like, what was it? Jackie Onassis. Everybody was taking pictures of Jackie Onassis, and then one day she just stopped hiding from the paparazzi and just, she didn't smile, but she was just like, and people got tired of taking her picture. Michael Jackson would always like hide from the press, and then one day he was just like, take pictures of me, and after a while they moved on. Kind of like Comicsgate, just stop acknowledging him, stop giving him, and they move on. So here he is. Larry's trying to get on camera and everything, and he's going back. There's still more mines, so he's doing the doggy paddle, and lo and behold, he's not a miner, he's not an engineer, he's a speechwriter. There's another collapse.
There's only like a few panels in the entire book that, and I don't want to call it the Marvel way, but look like a Marvel comic to some degree. And this like setting, the shadow, it's a very like dynamic kind of thing that you might see in a Marvel comic.
Well, there's not a lot of action in this comic either.
Right.
So this is an action panel, so I'm sure that, I like that the light bulb's breaking. He's got this shadow. You see his eyes, like, you don't even see his face, but he's like,
yeah.
What a revolting development, and, because the rest of it is human interaction and consequences of having this body. Like this page, it's just talking heads. And I like this. They start putting a clock in the corner, because there was a reason why he said I could hold my breath for an hour.
Yep.
And I kind of feel like, oh, now the pressure's on. Now we got to rescue Concrete. Like, what about the guys in the mine? There's a new caveman. He's buried at least 80 feet in. He's like, I hardly knew this guy. Could he still be alive? We have so much to learn. And it's kind of sad that we already saw Concrete like pining for this woman, and her first thought is, what a shame. There's still so much to learn. Like, he's literally a specimen at this point. In her defense, he doesn't look human.
I'm not gonna lie. This part of the book where it just goes panel to panel, we take turns with their interior dialogue. It's awkward, like, because it's not like they're in a room talking to each other and we're seeing sort of their dialogue and then subtext with. It's just we're like panel interior dialogue. I wonder if he's okay. I just got to know him. I don't mind it. It is, but it's a little jarring. I don't know if I've ever seen that kind of like part of a story before.
Well, in his defense, Paul Chadwick is a rookie at this point. I don't think he has 20 years of experience. Like,
yeah.
I think he did a few comics before this, but yeah, I get like they're all facing the same direction, and it's just like here's my inner thoughts. Here's my inner thoughts. Here's my inner
Yeah.
thoughts. Like, and the inner thoughts aren't really a surprise either. You know, you know, it's like I'm secretly in love with concrete. Like that would have been shocking. I'm I'm Nyborg 7 from the planet Jupilon. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like, oh, there goes my chances of story. But this I do like because Senator Douglas. My instant reaction is, I hate you. You're a politician.
Yep.
And he's like, Lord, I've sacrificed Ron. That's right. His name is his name is Ron. Why can't I think? Lithgow. Ron Lithgow. He's like, I sacrificed Ron, the closest thing to a son I've ever had, for a political favor to a nincompoop. What have I? Like, it makes you okay. He's a good guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is the guy he's doing a political favor for. But at the same time, it's like he's still saving lives. Like at this point, Concrete saved 2 lives that would have died. So that you know, right then and there, that's worth it. And now we have, the blue collar guys to the rescue. They're gonna rescue him. I do like this. They got this big, again, with the tripod stand, hammer gun, and the clock is going. So what has it been? It's been almost an hour. Yeah, that's right. It's been almost an hour. Kids can't even read radio anymore, right? Everything's digital. Kids today. And what do we got here? Larry's writing the notes. He's taking his job seriously now for the first time. Keep in mind, like, up until this point, it was just, oh wow, I can meet chicks.
Mm-hmm.
Now he's like, he's writing all the stuff, maybe stuff that he shouldn't, like Isaac could read license plate if he believes it now. Like he could before he was like, you're putting me on now. And then this is Tony Hill is like flirting with guys for information. Like, she's just a piece of crap. You know what I mean? Like, Concrete may die. These miners are dead at this point, and she's just like, hey, can you give me a story over here? And and Larry, to his credit, it's real now. He doesn't have time for this. Like, he's bringing donuts and soda to the workers.
Yeah, she's like from Gawker or something.
Yeah, yeah. One of those horrible newspapers. And again, I wonder. Well, it is night, so it makes sense. But I wonder if all this darkness was like I'm nearing the end of the comic. It's cheats, but like, it's cheats that work. I know John Buscema used to say it like that. When in doubt, black it out.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's a cheat. I mean, like the image at the bottom where he's in silhouetted, like you said, this is like he finally kind of takes it seriously, and I think that's a cool shot to show that.
Right, and it works too because the light is behind him. He would,
Yep.
And then the darkness over. It's just a good way to frame, like he's going down this Dante's Inferno and stuff. And now here she is doing the press. Back in the old days, she's on a phone, reading copy, I guess they call it. This is interesting. They got like a big, like, Luna moth. Like, that's a weird little detail.
I don't know if I caught that.
Yeah, I guess it's because all the lights. That's kind of interesting,
Hmm.
attracting all the moths. Here's the senator just laying in bed. He feels responsible, just drinking his woes away, kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean that was a shock. A politician that's not a cartoon, like quote unquote cartoon character.
Right. Yeah, he plays a savvy political game, but ultimately he's a good guy. I mean, I kind of got dragged through the mud. Say, like, we talk in generalities. We're adults. Like, when we say, like, all Europeans eat cheese. Like, we know what we're talking about. Like, there are good politicians. I do believe that there has to be some altruistic politics. Maybe not altruistic, but not a total piece of shit. I'll go on record to say that somewhere there's a politician who's not a total piece of shit. That's about as much leeway as I'll give them. But, even that guy you like, he's got, he did horrible things. Your guy did horrible things too. Your lady did horrible things too. To get to that point, they did stuff that would curl your hair. And here he is, they pull out another miner, and now he's just watching all of this media blitz for for the, and I think this page, I think, is showing us why concrete isn't everything. Coke is it, you know, and they're oversaturating the American people to get used to seeing this guy, so that paradoxically he can have some privacy. You
Yeah,
know,
basically, concrete at this point is Pedro Pascal. You
right,
literally can't turn anywhere and not see his face.
right. Every, he's in every commercial, he's in every product. He's endorsing Happy Meals and stuff, like, to the point. The whole point was to get people sick of him, so that when they do see them, they're like, geez, like, enough. But at the same time, this reporter is starting to realize they are hiding something. Like, she's obviously a good reporter. And here, I like this panel. Maureen is sleeping in the car, showing that maybe it is like she's tricking herself, thinking he's just a specimen. You know what I mean? Why is she still there?
Yeah.
She doesn't have to be, And Larry now is totally caught up. We got to save him. We got, like, at first it was just, I got to be chicks. Oh, this will be good grist for a novel. Now he's like, what are we doing? How 40 feet? We got 40 more feet to go. And, like, the workers, like, this guy's tired. Oh, no. This is Larry, and the workers tell him, go. You're not helping. You're not in the way, but we don't need you here. He's like, no, I'm going to stay. Like, he got one over, and then I like this. His head pops out. Don't just stand there, Larry. Take my picture. And I like this. Larry has trouble focusing through his tears. Less is more.
Yep.
How? Why? You said only an hour. Right. I can only hold my breath this long. And now we go into a flashback. He pushed the rock down the shaft to spread it out, to make air pockets, because it wasn't airtight. So he knew that if he dig forward, he would be trapping himself in an area. So he just pushed the rocks down and just trusted that they would rescue him. Something normal people couldn't do, because they don't have his strength, his endurance, his time. But they made a point of showing that it's a gigantic rock that trapped him in, even more so than he could lift. And then
I just want to mention, it's funny, not funny, but it's interesting that, so Concrete visually is just a really interesting character. And I think a lot of artists, well, Mignola is like, I want to draw monsters, so they draw monsters. But he draws a ton of other stuff besides concrete. I mean, he could just do concrete all day long. It's a fun, interesting character. So it's almost like not showing the monster on every page and every panel. And it is interesting when you finally see him, like, oh, he looks, it's an interesting character.
Yeah, I always wanted a concrete action figure. It would be like the dopiest looking doughboy of a figure. But I really do like it. Again, I'm a sucker for what I call the Pinocchio. At this point, Ron Lithgow, the Concrete's secret identity, is kind of enamored with all the things that he could do. Later on, he starts to, like, pine away for being human yet. So right now, it's like almost like a new toy. Like, he was a sickly, cerebral academic who now gets to do all these physical things. So the newness and the adventure of it is kind of outweighing all the detriments. But sooner or later, he's like, we take it for granted, but you can't taste soup. You know what I mean? Like, you can't be with a woman. You can't do anything. Like, all the little things that we take for granted. He has no sense of touch. He doesn't. You can't smell a pleasant whatever. You know what I mean? Like, it sounds kind of fruity to say it, but we would miss it.
Yeah, I mean, not to get too depressing, I think it was the singer of In Excess. I watched this, like, little short on him. He fell down on his bike, hit his head, lost his sense of smell permanently. And everybody basically said, ever since that moment, he was never the same. And for him, it was a big part of his life. And it just kind of drove him nuts, not being able to...
I didn't know that.
Yeah. I know a few people that don't have a sense of smell. And I'm like, I can't even imagine it. But having it and then losing it has to be terrible.
What's that called? Osmia? Os, it's basically the word for nose blind. A humorous story. My cousin John, when he was a kid, he was always like, he's a good looking, ladies man, and he was always like, I ain't getting married. And he always said, I'll get married when I find a woman whose father owns a liquor store and she has no sense of smell. And that was always the joke. That's when I'll get married. But guess what? He found a woman whose father owned a liquor store and she was born with no sense of smell.
That's amazing.
And it's funny because he said it for years before he met her. So there you go. The Lord works in mysterious ways. So to go from laughing to the somber, he gets freed, and he's basically saying to him, I was fine. Not that you would know that, but like, go rescue the other people. Like, why did you waste so much time on me? I was the last person you should be wasting all this time for. You know that I would survive the longest. And they're like, because they're already dead. We found them all. 18 men. They're all dead. You the only ones who survived are the ones that you rescued. He says they were crushed in the initial, and then we got this silent, all these people were frantically, okay, they're dead, but we still can save one guy. So they put all that mania in saving him. And now I guess it's like, we could understand the finalities. And he's like, let's go up. Again, maybe a less talented writer or something and then we all hung our heads. You know what I mean? Sometimes you don't need, Oh, Old Dirty Fatty. What does he say? I worked with someone who didn't have a sense of smell. It's kind of dangerous. He got really sick from food poisoning. Yeah, there's a reason why we have smell. Like at the risk of being weird, my friend whose wife with the getting pictures taken with Greg Ginn when she listened to Debbie Gibson, when he had his son, and he was just like, his first son is born. He had an older daughter, but now he has his first son, and he's like, the nurse is like going to take him to a circumcision, and Jimmy's not Jewish, he's not religious in the slightest, and he told the nurse, don't do that, and like, well, he goes, we evolved that for a reason, like, it's a part of the human body. Why are you cutting it off? Like, if it served no purpose, our bodies wouldn't have developed this piece of skin. Don't do it, so. Of course, now his son's just like, yeah, I'm a weirdo. He's like, I got a turtleneck. But like, I don't know, like, why did I like? There's reasons for. Why did I even tell that story? There was a reason I was telling that story, but now
because he lost a sense of smell and
right,
taste and all that stuff.
We have these things for, like, if you lose your sense of smell, it's got to be dangerous.
Yeah.
Although where I'm working right now, I could not use some smell because it's disgusting. This disgusting moldy basement where I'm working. Like, again, the public school system, it's disgusting. You think all your tax, it's falling apart. You got to see some of the shoddy electrical work, and they're like, yeah, it's fine. Like, you're the inspector. You shouldn't be telling me this is fine. I know this is bad. Yeah, I'm going to get myself in trouble because they're like, you spending too much. No, this has to be done this way.
So anyway, this is my favorite scene, like the next thing, where he imagines Vonnegut's reaction when he comes out.
Right.
Because everybody has done that in any situation, whether it's you haven't seen somebody for a long time, like you always imagine that interaction. And you're like, oh.
Right. Like he walks out of the mall. Where is everybody? Maureen's not here. I'll call her and the senator. And Concrete imagines, oh, Ron, Saab, you're alive. Thank God. I never realized how much you meant to me.
Yeah.
Concrete, yeah. Senator Douglas wants a word. He pulls him out of this. He's drinking. He's apologizing. I'm sorry. You made it, lad. I knew you wouldn't fail me. Listen, though, with the death of the miners, the press has turned nasty. They'd eat you up alive. You got to get out of there as quick as possible. He goes, gee, I'd hope for a little hero treatment, but if you say so. He goes, we're supposed to sneak out. And then Maureen's sleeping in the car. So much for the hero's welcome. There's Maureen. Here it comes. And what does she do? I'm so relieved you're all right. We have so much to go over. Did you have any chest pain? Like you mentioned before, did you eat any rock? Yep, Concrete eats rocks. And his body digests the rocks. And that's literally how he heals, through through digestion of rocks. Uh, Anything since? I wish I had my equipment. And he's just like, oh well, he imagined the hero's welcome, and now it's just like, how do you feel? Did he eat rocks? And he's just flying back. He can't even sit. I like this panel. I like. He can't sit in the airplane. He's got to sit in the aisle. And now he says, okay, for I got to do a public apology tour, but I need some equipment. I'd like to swim a large body of water. The English Channel? No, I was thinking the Atlantic Ocean. And he's flying away, and here's the report. Damn, and there I go. I was sleeping. Well, here's more for the story. And I bet I could get it through that Larry Monroe, or however I have to. Dun, dun, dun. So that's the first issue. A lot happened. In Dark Host. Paul Chadwick, come to here, meet him. Look at all these people. John Workman, Mark Badger, The Mask, Godzilla, Steve Bissett, Larry Stroman. Look at all these people that worked. Trekker. What else we got here? You see Dark Horse Presents. That they have like little 8-page stories in Dark Horse Presents, and then it spun off into its own title. I just like checking out these old ads, but look at this Godzilla. I love what Steve Bissett. He draws all these monsters with all those squiggly lines. Are you familiar with Steve Bissett?
Mm-mm.
He did. To me, he was most famous for Swamp Thing with Alan Moore.
Oh, okay.
And the next issue is he gets this tank, this buoyancy tank, so he can float, and he gets these like big, whatever they're called, flippers, and he literally swims the Atlantic Ocean. So from this point on, for like the next 10 issues or so, he climbs Mount Everest, he hikes the Sahara, like he just does. And then one of the things that I really, really liked about it was he explains why he did these stories. And he talked about when he was in 6th grade, Paul Chadwick did a report on Sir Richard Burton, the explorer. And I was like, oh, that's cool. I'd never heard of this guy. So I went and got a biography of Sir Richard Burton, and I became obsessed with this guy to the point like he's a character in my role-playing game. Sir Richard Burton is the inspiration for Indiana Jones and what's his name? The guy who did King Solomon's Mine. That Sean Connery played him in the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. I can't remember the character. Alan Quatermain.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and the funny thing is, the real Richard Burton is almost more fantastic than Indiana Jones and Alan Quatermain. Like,
wow.
My favorite story of I got 2 favorite stories of Sir Richard Burton, and that not the actor, not the guy who was with Elizabeth Taylor,
not the drunk.
He discovered the source of the Nile. He went to India, and there was a snake cult, and there was like an exclusive snake cult, and the only way to join the snake cult was to be born into it. And you couldn't. There were secrets, and he was just like, secrets? I'm going to learn those secrets, and he just hung out with them. And he said he would learn 20 words a day, and that's how he learned the language. And he impressed the snake cult, and they were like, yeah, you're one of us. You were born into it. Just you were born in England, but you were born into the snake cult. Like that's, so they just accepted him, and he learned all the secrets. And of course, he wrote all these books. He wrote the Kama Sutra.
I didn't know that.
But my favorite story of him is he was the first European to go to Mecca, into the Kaaba. He went inside the Kaaba and memorized it, and came back and drew diagrams. Like before that, no white man has ever seen, the inside the whatever that cube is in Islam that they worship. But my favorite story is he left, and he was gone for like 20 years. And when he comes back, his brother is in a mental institution, just eyes open, unresponsive. And all the doctors like, we don't know what to do. We tried everything. And Richard Burton just goes, I'll get him to talk. And he just walks up to him and goes, hey, Paul, you still owe me 20 pounds. And Paul goes, I paid you back, and he goes, and gets up and has a conversation.
That is so funny.
And one of the things that he was married to Mary something, I forget her last name, but a proper British woman, but she stayed in England, and he would do all of these missions and come back, and he would have books about having sex with them. Like if he went to India, he would bang all the Indian women and write about it, describe their physical features and their lovemaking techniques. He could, he was a dirty old man, but like he said it was part of his exploration. And then his wife would read the books and she would translate them all and
Oh
clean
my
them all up.
god.
Then he would leave and she'd throw them in the fire. So like most of his books were destroyed by his wife. He's sitting there going, I'm doing, and this was Victorian England. So he's like, I'm doing scientific sex.
Right.
And coming back, here you go, honey. And then go off on another mission. And come, where are all those books? Oh. But the Kama Sutra survived. But my favorite, he met with Queen Victoria. And he went, I think it was like 1888 or something like that. And he went to New Mexico on a mission. And then came back a year later and never spoke about it. Nobody knows why he went to New Mexico on a mission. So you better believe that there was a V&V campaign set in 1988 where Sir Richard Burton had to go for Queen. I love that stuff. But
that sounds fascinating. So it's funny you mentioned that because, like, the concrete I remember, and again, I was trying to think. I'm like, what do I remember from concrete? And in my head, at least 20 years later, I'm like, I think he just kind of walked on the beach and talked. Like that was
pretty much.
But specifically, I could not think of actually like what took place in this book. So after reading this issue 1, I'm going to go back and read the other stuff that I have because it's bugging me that I don't remember. I remember liking it. It's like you read it once, I'm like, oh, I put it in the category of cool comic, great art. I liked it. I'll get more later, and I just never did.
Oh, I really loved it. Like these full issues, like it's definitely a character-driven story. It's not like an explosion at the bank and Batman reacts and beats up the. It's this issue was just, I'm gonna throw you this character, and okay, there was a mine collapse. He rescues people. It's the bare bones of a plot.
Yeah.
But it's filled with character, and it shows so much really good world building. Like this really is what I tried to do with issue 1 of Heroic Tales. Like you notice you don't see the origin. I told you the origin. Like I don't even think you know the origin to like issue 7 or 8, and it came out like quarterly, so that was a long time. And so I kind of like, all right, Paul Chadwick, I'm just going to introduce the patriarch and not tell you his origin, and hopefully you like the character. I'm not saying I'm as good as him or as successful, but like that's what I was trying to go for. I just have to laugh at Joey Lawrence. He's just so dreamy, just smiling at me. I told you that's my prime bookmark. I've had it since like 1992. But anyway, it's just good.
No, I was just going to say as far as the characters, they're so well done that it's like you meet them, and the first scene with each character, it just sets that character. Like the dialogue is on point. They all sound like different characters. They use different language. I don't know how much he did before this, but it's really well done. And honestly, the artwork is so good. I wonder if it was more like amateurish, kind of indie feel. Would I like it as much? I don't think so, because it just, the art, even if you just page through the art alone, like it's beautiful.
Yeah.
And then the story is just as good.
Yeah, I really like every once in a while. Like there's a couple of like her face right here. I see the limitations in his art. Like he got a lot better. He did this comic for 20 years. You do anything for 20 years, you get better. But you do see like every once in a while, I see a limitation. There was one picture of like this picture of concrete. It just looks off.
I mean, it looks like a dog that just got admonished or something.
Yeah.
But maybe in a good way. I don't know. Oh, you know what? Look, he's got horns in this.
Yeah, there you go. That's what I was talking about. Like this picture, like that doesn't, like there's limitations in the art in her face right there, I think. But it works. It works. Like far be it for me to criticize anybody's art,
but the line work is really nice. Right. So even if the structure might be off, like the pen's so nice, it's smooth. Like I feel like my line work, I'm using a brush, not a pen, and it can get gritty sometimes.
Like I wonder, like this page really, like you said, it's all the same flat angle, the same thing. Like I don't know. It didn't bother me when I read it, but I literally read this in 1987 and then reread it this morning. So like now I could see it. I never would have noticed back in 1987 that okay, it's the same, but that's also a thing. There's actually, did you pick up on the Talking Heads? Is a running thing in him. Like he literally, Ron Lithgow, before he became Concrete, was pushing a TV show called The Talking Heads, or Floating Heads, and it was just going to be the whole premise of the show was it's heads floating in the afterlife, and it's just and they just move, and when they bump into each other, they just stop, and then the show is them talking about their lives, and then at the end, they float past, and then other heads bump in. It's just, and he keeps trying to get this show published. And now I'm Concrete. Maybe, and he did like a limited series called The Floating Heads. I think it was like a
That's
6-page
funny.
story. So I wonder if just Floating Heads was like because there's a lot of them in this, like this page, like not really
Yeah.
Floating Heads, but this is the same panel over and over again. Like we had Matt Barrett in the audience. I wonder if he's still watching. Like, what would you do, like, to convey the information, like a TV, like over here, these panels, but at least they're in different poses.
Yeah, like at a certain point, and that's why I'm like, there's a lot of talking heads and just people doing things. And if it wasn't drawn as well as it is, I think it wouldn't work as well, because okay, yeah, they're talking, they're yeah, maybe expositing a little bit, but we need that. It's the first issue, so we need to get that information somehow.
Right, literally from here, well, from this on, it's info dump,
Yeah.
but it's done in such a well done way that, and the kid with the mask, playing with the toys, the billboards with the Concrete drinking, the art is filling us in. So he doesn't, like, he could have been like, and there's everywhere you look, there's advertisements for like
Yeah.
they don't say that because we're literally seeing it, and little kids are playing Concrete in the street. It's Concrete action figures as he's, you know what I mean? I think he did a really good job. I mean, I was really impressed with this because literally at the time it was Marvel and DC. This is 1987. I'm trying to think, like, this is like, I forget the years, but is this still like Claremont doing the X-Men? You know what I mean? Like this is
Maybe.
this is Walt Simonson doing Thor, at least.
Yeah.
So like this is the height of some of like the best superhero comics, and this was just like a nice, refreshing difference. Hero Darkly Dark. It is a fun book. It's an interesting book, and I can see if it's not your thing, because it really is a character exploration, and it's like, what if I had this body, and there's some issues where like he doesn't even leave. He lives in like a warehouse in the back of like a movie studio, and there's some issues where he doesn't even leave because he's dealing with like a problem. Like one issue, he literally gets shot in the leg with an RPG, a rocket propelled, and I think it's like the next whole issue is, wow, he can heal from that. You know what I mean? Like that's something that happens to Wolverine in 2 panels.
Right.
But that's the whole issue, and he's like, and Maureen Vonnegutt's taking tissue because they can't get to his tissues, so they're taking tissue samples, and I think because of that they have to let Larry know he's not a cyborg, because he's seeing organs, and but I do like that. I do like the consequences of basically superpower. Like what if Colossus from the X-Men never turned human? Like,
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's not real dense, meaning like there's a lot of dialogue, but it's well done. Like I said, the characters are good. I've always loved it, and it's somewhere in between Marvel action and something, that's super artsy. It's like a really nice middle. Like I could see this as a TV show, like
right, this would work best as a TV show, not a
Yeah.
movie. Because if they made it as a movie, they would have to make some bombastic,
Yeah.
like, fighting a shark or something like that. But like, it works best as a TV show where, like in Breaking Bad, like that episode with the fly.
I didn't see it.
Oh, everybody talks about nothing happened. There was just a fly in the laboratory. They spend the whole episode trying to kill a fly.
Yeah.
Like that you can't do that in movies. Get the dry core. Yeah, that's a tool, dry core bit to drill through them. Uh, I love the dry core. It's so much fun. Just so satisfying to drill through like 2 foot concrete wall, and you got a perfectly round, smooth hole. It's fun. I don't mind doing it. Like that's punishment work, and I'm like, I'll do it. And then they get mad because they realize I'm happy. But yeah, I do like this. Is definitely character driven. It's the opposite of Marvel and DC. It's little moments, little I don't know, like it's like paradoxically, this is a guy who lost his humanity, so it's just like little human moments. Like you said, he comes out of the mine. He expects the girl to come running and hugging him.
Yeah.
She's asleep in the truck, and then when she wakes up, she's like, "Oh, did you have heart palpitations? How is your, you know? Oh yeah, I'm a science experiment. She means nothing. I mean nothing to her.
Yeah, like if you ask somebody, would you give up everything to be, super strong and invincible, super strength, all this kind of stuff? People are like, yeah, sure. And then this is, like you said, this goes into detail in every single way where it's a little downside. You can't sit in a chair. You can't do, all these little things kind of add up. But at the beginning, it's like, heck yeah, I'll be a giant rock.
Right. He like if there were other superheroes in the world, he would fit on a team. I mean, he's got the super eyesight. He never gets tired. He could lift a truck. Like he's bulletproof. Like he has everything you need to be a superhero, except supervillains. So then what do? You swim the Atlantic Ocean. You climb.
Yeah.
And what I like, it's like Mr. Beast. He's doing all this stuff to raise funds and awareness. And to what I mean, to make the world a better place. So he is a hero, but like in a paradoxically a realistic way, because you really can climb Mount Everest. You can't swim the Atlantic Ocean, but he can. I think he explores. I forget if he like walks across Antarctica or something like that. And there are risks. He could fall in a hole. He doesn't. He can't get eaten by a shark, but like he could sink, and then what do you do?
Yeah.
But I like it. Anything you want to say? We've been talking for 2 hours. I got to go to bed.
Yeah. No, I'm good. This is fun.
Yeah, this was a good choice. Fabrizio picked this one. This was a good choice. Now I'm interested in like rereading a lot of it. I don't want to spoil it, but like later on, after like a couple of heartbreaks, Maureen starts to realize she does have feelings for him. But then that's a whole rigor. Like, what do you do?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? How are you just like Swamp Thing and Abby? Like, are you just happy being near each other? Like, are you really just? Oh, I'm in love with his mind. He makes me laugh. Like, really? It has nothing to do with like muscles and cuddling, because you can't do all of that. So it's I don't want to spoil how they work out their relationship, but you probably don't know then.
I don't remember now.
Yeah. And of course Larry's always hitting on the wrong girl, and everybody's got stories. It's good. I recommend it. I'm sure there's like an omnibus. There's got to be. I know there's graphic novels or collections, trade paperbacks, but I recommend this. Next read, all 300. Oh man, I was so into it. The first 25 issues, man, I burnt through them. They were so good back when it was just like a parody of Conan, and then he becomes the head of the state, and it is a slog. Everybody says, "Oh, Church and State." It's one of the most brilliant. Have you read Cerberus?
No.
Oh, it's Church and State. You got to get Church and State. It's one of the best graphic novels. Because they turned it to a phone book sized graphic. Man, I hate it. It's torture. It's Cerberus in the same room. Like it's well drawn. It's different angles. Yeah. And then they had like a minor character that looked like Groucho Marx, Julius, King Julius. And it was funny when he showed up. Look, he looks like Groucho Marx, and he's got better you than me kind of quip. But now he's in like every page. Like the joke's over. The joke was over. And now it's like, oh, for the next 60 issues, it's him and Groucho Marx in a room. Yeah, it's so. I got this stack of comics right over here. Literally, Cerberus is on the bottom. because like, oh, when I get to it, I'll get to it. I
Yeah.
hope there's a pickup. Does it get better after Church and State? I think I'm up to issue 79, so I think I passed Church and State. I hope it's got to pick up. And then he has the nervous breakdown. I'm talking about Dave Sim, and
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah, it's funny because
yeah, Lord Julius.
I know you got to go, but a lot of times I'm like, oh, I'd like to go back and reread things. But I'm like, reread things. I have books to read, let alone reread them.
I know. I'm starting to become aware of my own mortality. I'm like, I've 17 long boxes of comics. Like, my goal is to read them before I die. Not to become a millionaire, not to have a harem, not to have like the beautiful house, and to read comics before I die. It's kind of pathetic now that I'm saying it.
It's funny, like before I go to bed, I'm like, what is my brain in the mood for? Am I reading like G.I. Joe Omnibus or, a history book on the Catholic Church? Like
This
what
is
am
what
I
I'm going to
doing?
read. Tonight I'm going to read a comic before going to bed. So that the first appearance of Doc Samson.
Yeah.
You know, uh, I'm also going to finally read Florida Man, Hogzilla. This has been on my stack for a long time.
Okay.
That's in my to read. But there you go. I'm gonna go have dinner and go to bed. Yeah,
Sounds good.
creepy is something I'd like to do, but is creepy like fodder for Postentious? Like,
I don't know about that. They're good. I mean,
yeah,
I've
they're good,
read.
but they're not like like they're not like the whole point of Postentious is like stuff maybe you didn't know about because they were
Yeah.
like cult favorites. I don't know. Creepy is kind of a cult favorite, but everybody liked Creepy. Like I do think like Love and Rockets would be good. Like if you get like the Death of Speedy Ortiz or Heartbreak Soup graphic novel,
Okay.
those,
Yeah, I've never read it. I've always wanted to. So.
those would be pretty good. I'd be curious what you think. The later issues of Love and Rockets, I'm getting it's like I'm buying them out of loyalty because it's like, yeah, there's nudity, but it was like rare and like now it's just like one of the main characters is literally a porn star, so it's just like explicit sex. I'm like,
Hmm.
it's getting to be too much. But anyway, I'm gonna go to bed, everybody. Thanks a lot. This is John. Pick up Heroic Tales 2 on Kickstarter and get Horace H. Hoover on let me
HorseHoover.com.
there you go. I'll put the link in there. Uh it's a 5-issue series. You're working on issue 4. Do you have any release dates or estimations?
Probably September will be the crowdfunder for issue 4.
Oh, cool. I
Yeah.
didn't realize that's awesome. I really like it. I really like it.
Thank you.
Yeah, like I joke around. Who's the target audience for Horse? Me. No one else. It's set in the 30s, New York, a little bit of humor and some Lovecraft stuff. It's like, yeah, I'll buy that.
And then after that, our collab. So.
Yes. Fabrizio has a script for. It's set in the Old West because Science City was founded in a real place, and there's a real ghost town. I've been there. That's why I picked it as the location. It's beautiful. So I made up some stuff why. So Fabrizio is going to tell the story of Science City when that ghost town was a real place. When it wasn't a ghost town, when it was an active silver mine. So, so it's not really a Western because it's not like cowboys and Indians running around, but it's set in the Old West.
Very cool. Yeah, I'm excited to do it. I'm excited to experiment with some of my styles and maybe do watercolor. So
Yeah,
looking
I
forward to
can't
it.
wait. If I could tell tales out of school, I asked Fabrizio, like, he's my artist, so he's more graphic than I am. I'm a wordy guy. So I was like, how do you want me to do the script? And Fabrizio was like, do it Marvel style. And oh my God, did I panic? I don't know how to do Marvel. Like, what do I just write? Like, this happens. It's like on an index card because that's. So
Yeah.
I wrote a full script. Maybe too many words, but do whatever you want. Do it. Change whatever you want. I don't care.
I think it's between the two of us, your words and kind of going back and forth. I think this is going to be really
I can't
fun.
wait. I can't wait. I don't want to spoil it, but I will say, remember, my comic book is superheroes plus Dungeons and Dragons plus Lovecraft, and I think this story probably has all of that
Yeah.
more so than any of my story. Yeah.
It's going to be really fun to draw, and that's when
Yeah, because I was like, "How would you like to do this story for Richard?" I was like, "Nah." I was like, "How about this?" Nah. And I'm like, "How about this story? It has this. Yes, that's the one I want."
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm excited. I'm excited. I don't want to say the title of the story because somebody will steal it.
Yeah. Yep.
All right. But thanks a lot. Looking forward to
See ya.
everybody. Horace H. Hoover, I really, really like. 3 issues now. Pick them up. The 4th issue will be crowdfunded in September, and then the 5th issue. And then you're going to do other things. And will we see Horace again in the future, do you think?
Yep. Yeah, for sure. Down the
I
road.
love that character. All right. Good night, everybody.
Bye.
I'll see you tomorrow, 7 o'clock with Tonic Bowl. He's launching his newest Saving the World. So he's launching in the morning. He's going to come on at 7 o'clock.
Cool.
We'll try to do a promo. I love talking to Tonic Bowl. He's the crowdfunding guru. He knows what to do, and I don't listen to him, and he's always right.
It sounds like it, yeah.
He's like Cassandra. This is what you should do, and then I do the opposite. And then at 8:30, it's clobbering time. James Bond versus Indiana Jones. So I'll see you guys tomorrow. Bye-bye.